week, you can each have a call of your own today, or a copy of the call for yourself today to review at your leisure. I'm really excited about today's session. And if at any point in time you guys have any questions or anything, just raise your hand and you can raise your hand. I believe it's under the reactions tab for Zoom. You just raise your hand and that'll let me know, and I'll come and get to you as soon as I'm done delivering whatever portion of that needs to be done. And then we will go from there. It will be an awesome call. And so I am excited, and I think that we should go ahead and get going. Today we're going to come out of Hebrews 11:1. Can everybody hear me? If so, type yes in the chat. So, Hebrews 11:1, for those of you who are new to the Bible, is in the New Testament, closer to the back of the book. And we are going to chapter 11, verse 1. And we're going to read probably the first 7 verses. Ten verses. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtained a good report. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. By faith Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous, God testifying of his gifts, and by it he being dead yet speaketh. And remember, Abel spoke, his blood spoke to God to let him know that there was a problem and that he had been murdered by Cain. By faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found because God had translated him. For before his translation, he had this testimony, that he pleased God, but without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. By faith Noah, being warned of God of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, that means reverence and respect, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world, and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith. By faith Abraham, when he was called to go into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out not knowing whither he went. By faith he sojourned in a land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs of him of the same promise. For he looked for a city which hath foundation, whose builder and maker is God. For those who think that women are not listed in the Hall of Faith as it's nicknamed, Sarah is spoken of next. Here's what we're going to talk about today on this How Bible Study. We're going to talk about what faith really is and how to really implement it in your life. So faith is the belief that the impossible can become possible. And that's the thing that we have to struggle with as humans, is that we stop believing that the impossible is possible. Here's what we do. We sit back and we go, you know what? Things aren't working out the way I want them to. They're not looking like I need them to. They're not moving in the way. I'm not making my goals. So this isn't going to happen. That is not faith. There's nothing in that is faith. And faith does not allow you to think that way or to speak that way. But here's another step that I challenge you to really understand, that when things are looking their darkest, faith opens the door to make things comfortable, peaceful. Like, it doesn't matter how bad it looks. You just sit back and you go, it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. You know, I have a client that I'm working with, and this client is in one state and is from another state. And this client has come to me and said, you know, God has shown me the house that I'm going to be moving into. This is the house that when I go back home, I'm going back into. This is the date when I'm set to leave here. I'm praying that it will be here in that time. If you looked at this house is off the charts huge. It's on an acre and a half of land. It's got outbuildings, hot tubs, swimming pools. It's this brick, very opulent building. I mean, it's regal. It's perfectly in line with what God would do. So when she talks to me and she comes to me and she says, things are not looking good right now, I need to build my faith because I know that this is where I'm going. Here's how we instruct her. First of all, we stop thinking that it's not going to happen. And I know that every day she goes and she looks at this building. And the interesting thing about it is that as she's looking at this building, I know there's a part of her that says, oh God, please don't let it have sold today. Don't let it have gone pending, right? But that part that says that, that's where doubt lives. And if you give too much effort and emphasis and belief in that, or thought or movement on that doubt, then that's what's going to take over. And so because this story is being written, I can't come to you and say she moved into her house, she this, she that, the other. But what I can say is this: what I have admired most is that no matter what it has looked like, she continues to take one foot in front of the other. So how does that relate to conversations and experiences as a whole? Because let's be honest, each one of us is having a different experience. Here's how. When I am truly living in faith, here's what I do. I walk. I do what I need to do, the way I need to do it, and I keep moving forward. And it's not I as in Twana, it's I as in whoever the individual is that's having this experience. You got to keep moving forward. If you're waiting on your wife to come back, the Lord is going to bring her. And the thing that you have to understand is that, especially if you're a man, men in this day and age have been under such great attack. I mean, there was nothing worse that could have been done to this world than to create a situation where men had to go to work. Because what happened is that they transitioned from being kings to being servants. And it was sold and packaged in a way that sounded so good to the average receiver. Oh, you're going to come and work for us. We're going to pay you all this money. You're going to have all of this. You're going to have all this and this stuff, and you're going to be able to do this. It's going to make your life easier. You're not going to and they're like, oh, okay. And they started coming out of fields and they started coming out of harder areas. They came out of steel mills and they came out of different things that they were doing, and they became servants. And before they knew it, they were shackled. And they were shackled without knowing. And so We look back at things like Leave It to Beaver. You got to be a little bit up there to remember that show. June and Ward Cleaver. June was a single parent, but nobody talks about that because, see, Dad was gone all day. And then he would come home and the boys were like, Dad, hi, Dad. And Dad was tired and he would sit in the chair and he wasn't trying. And so they programmed all men to become complacent, to sit back and to be exhausted after a hard day. I need to relax. No, see, that's the thing. If you have a penis, you represent Jesus on this earth. You didn't ask for it. It's your birthright. And when I say you represent Jesus, what I mean is this. If we go to 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 1 through 8, it says, wives, submit to your husbands. But when you go past the little 3 or 4 lines of wives, submit to your husbands, you get a whole laundry list of husbands. Love your wives as Christ loved the church and lay down your life for them, and all the things that Christ did, you are charged to do. And the problem is because our men got shackled and sent into slavery without ever realizing what they had done. We have 50 plus years of men who were raised by women, who didn't get to see Dad, but for an hour to a night before they had to run off to bed or he had to run off to bed. And that is where they started destroying our men. That is where our society sucked the life out of our kings and essentially put them in a place where they could no longer be the kings they were designed to be. So how do we step out of this? Here's how. We have to learn what our birthright really was. Our, meaning men. What your birthright actually was. How you were designed to lead. What you were designed to do. Because I watch man after man after man succumb to some authority that is not their Jesus. You see, if you're submitting to authority other than Jesus, you're submitting to the wrong authority. If you work for a company and you think I have to submit to my boss, you do not. In fact, you still have to submit to Jesus, and you have the freedom to be on even playing field with your boss. Will they see it that way if you explain it in a company? Absolutely not. But it's in how you carry yourself, how you respect people, how you speak to people, how you deal with people, that really makes the difference. When you are walking in faith, you are walking in your God-given right. There is nothing more frustrating to God, and people don't like to talk about this, but these are the facts, right? There is nothing more frustrating to God than to be this infinite God, and we don't ask for the blessing. We don't go to him and say, God, I want to live in this $30 million mansion. He may not give you that $30 million mansion, but I promise you the one he's going to give you, you never saw coming, ever. Ever. The girl I was telling you about in the example, I think it's really funny because a lot of times when she goes and she looks at these pictures, she starts doing the decorating. What colors am I going to use here? What am I going to do here? What's the feeling I want to create in this house? Because right now it's gray. And you've got to remember that God has stored up treasures for us, but it's up to us to get them out. And the way that we get them out, number 1 is through prayer, and number 2 is through faith. Let's switch that order. Number 1 is through faith, because we first got to believe in order to pray for it. So faith comes first. First, we believe that when he says it, he's going to do it. Second, we go into prayer. And prayer doesn't mean, oh God, please give me this house so that no, it means I want to thank you. Thank you for delivering me to this house. Thank you for creating the increase that I need to go pay cash for this house. Thank you for creating the increase that I need so that when I walk into whatever environment you want me to walk in, I can show up in a style that is befitting of you. Thank you for putting me in a position where I can walk and show myself as your daughter, as your queen. I want to thank you for allowing me and raising me up to be royalty, and for not leaving me there at the peasant level. I want to thank you for the fire that you put in me that allows me to keep moving forward in the promise that you gave me. I want to thank you every day of this week, Father, every day of this week and for going forward for everything that you have done for me while we have been in this world. I want to thank you for holding my hand when I thought I was going to fall. I want to thank you for holding me when I couldn't handle it anymore. I want to thank you as I take verbal beatings that you keep giving me the strength to keep getting up day in and day out. That's how we build faith. And that's how we continue to move forward. So before I wrap up, everybody is unmuted. Well, I've definitely hit everything except, there we go. All right, everybody want to go ahead and unmute? If you have any questions, we'll go from there.
I don't have any questions. This is Abdul. I just want to say that's awesome. I think that the way you put it is you got to have faith first, because you got to have faith to be able to pray the right way. And so many people pray first, have faith second, and you can't do it that way. With me being new, I think that's a really good distinction. And it may seem pretty elementary, but it was that was good.
Awesome. Well, if there are no other questions, then I guess we'll see everybody next week. I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday and a fabulous weekend coming up. Enjoy your next week.